So this is a tutorial on an Easter cross that I did. It's pretty easy to follow. I speeded it up a little bit because the original video was about an hour long. So I shortened it a little bit to like less than 20 minutes because for the most part the steps are pretty repetitive. So basically what I'm doing here is mixing brown acrylic paint with a little bit of water. You want it to be pretty liquidy, and it's going to give it a stained wood look. This piece of wood, I got it from Walmart for like $4. Pretty thin wood. It's like in the craft section, I believe. So basically what you're going to do is start painting with this watered down brown acrylic paint. Just strokes back and forth. You want to be able to spread it around a bit so that it looks very light. I didn't have different types of brushes, so I had to use this brush, but it seemed to work fine. It works a little bit better if you get those like foamy type of brushes because you're able to spread it pretty quickly and more evenly, but this seemed to work. You kind of work with what you got, so yeah, that's basically what I'm doing here. Just spreading the color back and forth and making sure you spread pretty good so that you don't get that darker, uneven look. Basically, you're just gonna let it dry out. I let it dry for about an hour till I went back to the next step. Right here I'm just touching up the sections that I missed. Alright, and then I did the stencil with my Cricut Maker. I did it on cardstock. It worked out pretty good. It's like an 8 by 11 and a half piece of cardstock. And basically what I did is I taped the top and the bottom so it didn't move around, and I just started tracing the stencil so that when you finish tracing it, you get this layout that you see from the stencil. was originally covered by the tape. That one's like the last step, obviously, because you don't want it to be moving around, so you have to do that till the very end after you trace everything else. Alright, so then you remove it and you can do some touch-ups. Right here I did the little circles that are obviously really hard to get with the stencil from the flower. Alright, and right here what I used was like a pastel looking acrylic paint. You can choose any color. I say a white would have been pretty good too. I just didn't have white with me. Or you can do black if you want like a really dramatic effect. I used a very thin brush since there's like very tiny, small things you have to do. So the tinier the brush, the better. And right here, basically all you're doing is going over what you drew with the stencil. This part's very easy because basically the stencil did everything for you. Right here you're just filling it in with paint, and obviously you try to be as careful as possible. There was a little bit of mess ups that I did, but it's fine. Acrylic is pretty forgiving, so you just kind of go over it and try to fix it. So, and I do a trick too with my brushes. I like to pinch it so that it can make it a little bit more pointy, and it makes it easier to get into those small tiny lines. And yeah, basically you just do this till you finish it up. Kind of messed up on this pretty little flower over here, but like I said, you just kind of work around it, try to fix it as much as possible, but at the end you can't really tell. And as you can see, I'm barely dipping my brush on the paint. You don't want to get too much on your brush because it's a little bit harder. And with the acrylic paint, it's not like you can wipe it off. If it's on there pretty good. So you just want to get a little tiny bit of paint on your brush and then keep dipping it. Wood is a really good alternative to canvas. It obviously gives it a little bit of a different texture. The texture on the canvas is a little bit rougher. The wood is a little smoother, so I really like using acrylic paints with it. You can also get wood, I believe, at like Home Depot. You get to cut off pieces of wood off, as opposed to buying it from like Michael's or Walmart. It gets a little bit more expensive that way. So the only thing is I was at Walmart and I saw it, so that's the only reason I did it. But I like to save a little bit if I can, and you get thicker pieces of wood that way too. This one's just like a very thin piece. The ones you get at Home Depot are a little bit thicker. This is a very easy craft to do. Like I said, the stencil pretty much does everything for you. You just fill it in. It's also very therapeutic. I love painting and doing these types of crafts because you kind of get lost in it. You don't think about your day-to-day problems. It's very useful for mental health, and especially during these hard times. And yeah, basically here I'm just wrapping up. And yeah, that's basically it. After this, I'm just wrapping up, touching up the little sections that I missed. And that's pretty much it. Very self-explanatory. Like I said, for these little lines, I pinch the brush and make the little bristles thinner. And that's it. That's the finished product.